Good evening. I'm Maureen Rushi, superintendent here in the school district, and my colleagues are joining us this evening so that we can talk a little more with you about Haverford Online. Thank you for the information that you have submitted. This evening's presentation and discussion have been based around a lot of that information that has come in. It's our effort, our efforts are to provide you with as much information as we can. We understand as parents the challenging decision that you have before you. So our goal is always to provide as much information as we can to enable you to make what you believe will be the best decision for your child. And thank you for joining us this evening to learn more about that. So I'll turn it over to my colleague, Jen Saxa, our Director of Curriculum in the district.
Thank you, Dr. Rushi, and I just want to echo your welcome. Thank you to everyone who took the time to write questions that were very helpful in helping us prepare just the initial part of this presentation this evening. And also to all of you, I know how busy it is out there, especially at this time of year and at this time of day. So we really appreciate people tuning in. What we're going to do, just as a process for this evening, Dr. Nesbitt, would you mind sharing our screen at this point? Dr. Nesbitt's about to share our FAQ, Frequently Asked Questions document. This is going to be posted online as well, but I just wanted to get you through, just so you get a sense of what our process will be, and then we'll talk about additional questions or clarifying questions that were not answered as we reviewed our frequently asked questions. So we'll begin with a review. There are a couple of categories that really came from what you sent in as your questions. Most had questions about community, curriculum, instruction, as well as the preparation of teachers. So we'll answer lots of questions in those areas. And then there were some specifics that didn't exactly fall into those categories. So we'll respond to those as well. If what we've covered in the FAQ does not answer the questions you have, please go ahead and post your questions in the chat. We presume that there will be a lot of questions in the chat, and that's why we have it enabled, is for that interactivity. So we'll just start going through those and answering them verbally as much as we possibly can in the time that we have allotted for today. This presentation is being recorded, and then we will also have a copy of the chat. So if a question occurs to you toward the end and we don't get to your question, we will then add that question and update our frequently asked questions document and post the updated document to the website. So we want to get as many things answered as possible, and we wanted you to have some time to react in real time to our responses, because sometimes there's an additional question we have there. We do have the time allotted for tonight from 5 to 6:30. We hope that that is enough time to get to your responses, and we do want to be just respectful of the time. Of course, you can tune out anytime you'd like. We're recording this, and that will be posted as well. So you're welcome to, stay tuned for as long as you can or would like to. So I think without further ado, we'll go ahead and begin. Just a quick reminder, we do have on our website, thank you, Dr. Nesbitt. I don't know if there's any way to make that any bigger, or if it's just on my screen that it's kind of a little small. On our website, we have a little overview document that just gives you a summary of what is Haverford Online. Just as a reminder, our desire is to provide as many of the courses that we offer here in person as online courses that are written by our teachers and instructed by our teachers. So our teachers have been hard at work all summer creating courses using Canvas, which is our learning management system. And we would like our students to experience that curriculum and have a teacher that helps them through that teaches them. Our priority is for our youngest students and the students with the greatest academic need to have the most live interactive time. And for the students who are at the older grades, they would have greater independence, a little bit more ability to schedule for themselves, but still have daily contact with an adult who can help them either teach a lesson or check in with them. So more information on that as we come. I just wanted to give that general overview again. Any courses that are not able to be written or for some reason have such a low enrollment that we're unable to dedicate an entire teacher to following that course and actually teaching the course, we may need to use Pearson Connexus as our supplemental curriculum. And that is a curriculum that's been vetted by teachers and administrators. And even though it is one that has been generated outside of Haverford, our Haverford teachers will be tailoring the curriculum to make sure that it's meeting our standards, and then would also be the ones facilitating it and helping the kids make their way through the curriculum. So that's, again, the overview. Lots more information coming in the frequently asked questions document, but I just wanted everybody to sort of start with that overview. The first section we thought we would begin with is community. We had a lot of questions about how can we create community, what will be the opportunities for live interactions with each other as well as with teachers. So as I've mentioned, in grades K to 2, there will be live interactions with classmates and teachers daily for every class. It will be taking online every day. If you were able to see the board presentation, you saw the sample schedule where every class begins with some live instruction, and then other assignments may be completed throughout that class period, some of which will require being engaged with a screen and some of which won't. It'll be close your computer and go work on this project, or close your computer and go do this experiment outside. The other question about live interactions for the older students, the amount of live interaction, it does depend on how many students are enrolled in Haverford Online. So if we have enough students to create a dedicated class, then that would be the students' class, and they would meet with them. If we had a dedicated teacher, same idea as our K through 2. What could happen is that we don't have enough students in any particular grade or in any particular course where a teacher would not be dedicated necessarily to teaching that particular class every day. But what we can say is that our Haverford teachers will be actually working with students, having live interactions with students on a daily basis for the students, even in grades 3 through 12. They will be making contact with an adult here. They will be put in small groups. They may have large groups. It depends on the subject matter. It depends on what the teacher's schedule is and how they can make sure they're touching base with each child. But there will be live interactions with peers and with teachers.
So we have a few questions on the K to 2 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
One is for grades 1 to 2, why is the day broken up with so many breaks? The small windows of time might make it difficult for parents to do work during the day.
Okay, that's something to consider. What we wanted to do was make sure that we were ensuring breaks from looking at screens, that we were ensuring breaks for students to have what we would call brain breaks here at school, where you sort of take a moment to step away from engaging your brain in that level of learning. We also know that there are snacking needs that happen. There are physical needs that need to be taken into account. And certainly we want to ensure that our students have enough time to take care of those things as well.
2 additional questions for K to 2. One would be, how many Manoa second grade students would be required to have an entire Manoa second grade class? And in general, what are the enrollment requirements to dedicate teachers to all elementary classes?
Sure. We have about what we look for is about 25 students. That's what we're looking at right now. If there are 25 students in a first grade Manoa class who want online, then that would be a Manoa class. If there were 20 students, we might mix them in with the 5 students from another building who also want to have online in that grade. So as we mentioned before, the goal would be to try and keep the kids from each school together within their class as much as possible.
Will the presentations be recorded?
Yes, this is being recorded right now, and the presentations from the school board meeting were recorded and are posted on the website.
I meant the lessons, the K to 2 lessons. Will they be recorded to allow for flexibility?
Yes. Okay. Okay. So will the students be able to stay connected to building-based events? This came out in a couple of different ways. Some questions were just about like the fun things that happen. If the spring fling happens in some form, are my kids involved in that? And the answer is yes. If there is an activity or a club, if there's a running club at school and I'm comfortable with my child participating, can they participate? Yes. They will still remain connected to building-based events, and our principals have already talked about this, about what form of communication they'll use, how frequently they'll begin communicating. You know, they still see students in Haverford Online as part of their building community, and will be making outreach efforts regularly at regular intervals to ensure that those students are aware of what's happening in our schools and still a part of what's happening in schools. One of the next questions is, would they be able to participate in activities and athletics? Yes. So whatever's running, these students are welcome to participate in, you know, in the same manner that they would if they were in person. Will students be allowed to participate in some Haverford Online classes and some in-person classes? So this is a really good question. I will say that we would prefer that students could select either all online or all in-person instruction. However, in particular, high school students may have such specific classes or a particular trajectory that they are on that it would make sense for them to stay in an in-person class and then also become a part of Haverford Online for the remaining classes. So what we're going to do is, on the registration form, we are going to ask for you to indicate if you are looking to have all of your courses through the Haverford Online, or if there is a particular course that you feel that it would be necessary to take with the in-person students. And will parents have opportunities to provide feedback? Yes, absolutely, 100%. Of course, the most important feedback to provide is about how your child is doing specifically, and that feedback would most likely be between you as a parent or guardian and the teacher, because that's the person who's having the primary contact with you. In addition to that, though, we also will, just as soon as we get things up and running, we have a few weeks under our belts, we will have a systematic way of collecting some reactions and responses from families about how it's going, what's working well, what tweaks can we make. You know, we are aware that that voice and that interaction needs to be a part of our communication, and we look forward to that feedback from the parents and guardians as well as the teacher, the students. I mean, we'll be looking for that as well. Of course, you're still a part of the Haverford school community, so contact with the principal, contact with the counselors, the support staff, all of those things remain still with the home building. So you still have access to all of those folks. And of course, also, you know, please remain a part of the parent-teacher organizations, whatever they may be, home and school associations. People call them different things in different buildings. But we hope that parents will still remain connected to the other parents and guardians in their home schools as well. So at this point, Dr. Nesbitt is going to answer some of the frequently asked questions about curriculum, unless you have any others that we should interject before we move on from community.
So there are a lot of questions coming in, many of which will be answered throughout the presentation.
Great.
But the volume of questions coming in that are not related to what we presented yet is going to make it challenging to make sure we get to all these questions. So if you can hold your questions as best you can till we do a little bit of the presenting, it'll make it easier for us to follow through. One of the questions I think was like for grades 3 to 5 in the middle school, what would enrollment need to be in order to get class ratios appropriate for live instruction?
Yeah, we would need, and so grades 3 to 5 are a little challenging because you have to look at which schools. So if we get 5 students from each school, we'll have 25 students, but we won't have one teacher who has 25 fewer students and now can be dedicated to teaching online. So that's where we might have one teacher who's dedicated to teaching a greater number of students online, but that's their only job. So we are aiming for 25 as our sort of tipping point, and it really depends on the grade level about when we would be able to offer a full teacher dedicated to teaching that class every day as their daily instruction.
Another common theme in these questions is, what's the difference between students in the hybrid and Haverford Online? And if we went fully online in the hybrid schedule, what would the situation look like?
Yeah, so our Haverford Online is not the hybrid in that there is no in-person piece. We will be working from the same curriculum. We'll be using the same resources. We will be using teachers who have been trained in the same way in our curriculum. So those are the things that are in common. The things that wouldn't be in common is that they are going to have, it depends, you know, if it's a grade 1 or 2, K1 or 2, you're going to have daily live teaching with your teacher every day. If your grades K1 and 2 in a hybrid model, you'll have a combination of live teaching some days and asynchronous or recorded and self-paced teaching throughout other days. So that's one difference there. Another difference would be, so if we went to an all online, the curriculum that we're using is the same. So we'll have the same curriculum, we'll have the same resources, but your child will have been a member of a Haverford Online learning community. And so they would remain with those students, they would remain with the relationship that they've built with that teacher, and they would continue to progress. And if school was back opened in another hybrid manner, or wouldn't that be great, opened regularly, then you would have the choice whether or not you were going to return back to the brick and mortar setting, or you could continue with that class as it has been, you know, with those relationships and with that teacher.
I think that's it for now. If you want to start monitoring the chat, I'll
Sure.
present on the curriculum.
Great.
So several questions on the curriculum. Will the curriculum be the same, and how are assessments going to be handled? And what will the pacing be like? So our intent is, again, from K to 2, we will use the school district curriculum, and the assessments will be very similar to the assessments that are done in person. Grades 3 to 12, again, our goal is that all core courses in math, science, English, and social studies are able to be delivered with the school district curriculum. However, it will depend on the total enrollment. Some classes may need to be delivered utilizing an additional purchase product known as Pearson Connexus. The content assessed in Haverford Online will match very much the content that is assessed in person. In some cases, the assessments may differ in their nature, but the content would be the same. And we do expect the pacing in Haverford Online to very much match the pacing to the students in our traditional school. It was also asked many times if the online school would follow the block schedule format, and yes, the online school will follow the same school as the building that you're in. So if you're in an elementary building, it will follow a trimester, and if you're at the high school, it will follow block scheduling, and students will be able to select up to 4 courses in which we would expect them to work about an hour and a half each day. How can students transition back and forth? Again, we would prefer that the transition occur at a quarter or a trimester or a semester, but students will be able to transition back and forth. We hope with the more courses that we deliver through Canvas, the more similar our online experience and the blended experience will look like. Our lessons or course guides available for review. The Haverford Online course guide will be posted next week. Daily lessons are not available. Teachers are always adjusting their plans according to the learning that occurs each day, but the course descriptions are available on our website for our present courses and will exist for the Pearson courses so that you can review the content that's covered. Will courses be made differently for honors or AP students? Yes, all courses which are typically leveled will have the same traditional levels as our in-person courses. We are striving to provide all AP courses, but there may be a few limitations. In that case, students would need to work with their counselors to find an appropriate alternative course. What will electives look like? Again, we hope to offer as many electives through Canvas as possible, but may need to supplement some of those electives with material available by Pearson Connexus. Why did we select Pearson Connexus and not Apex? We actually went out and surveyed, believe it or not, cyber charter schools. We surveyed several local school districts, and we looked at several products that could deliver this sort of asynchronous, synchronous experience. And after several administrators, teachers, parents reviewed those materials, we selected Pearson as the best product with the most possibilities behind it. How will students have access to supplemental resources like reflex math, etc.? Students who are on Haverford Online would have full access to every single website, every single web-based resource that we use in the school district, and they'd be part of the curriculum. So instruction, how much of the interactions would be live and how many would not be live?
Jeff, can I interrupt before you
Yep.
get there, just to
Yep.
go back to a little bit more about curriculum? We did ask, I have somebody who has a clarifying question, just elaborating a little bit on what the difference might be with assessments online versus in person.
Yeah, so sometimes assessments online might be more appropriate to be in a smaller group, maybe an interview, depending on the age of the child, or they may be project-based assessments. There may be more demonstration of mastery of knowledge through a project versus a traditional multiple choice question and answer. And again, that depends on the age and grade of the student in terms of what's most appropriate.
Great. And this one is just an easy one to answer. Is there a limit to the number of kids who can sign up for Haverford Online? Will it sell out? And the answer to that is no, it won't. And we are happy to provide it to those who are choosing this as their option. If you can make your decision within the registration time period, that's great, because it helps us allocate these resources and answer some of these questions that we all have about the level of interaction. You did answer a lot of the questions that came in about whether things would be offered at AP or honors levels. There are also questions about differentiation, which I believe that we will get to in our instruction time here. And I just will kids still be able to enroll in, especially at the high school, we're getting some questions, in band, orchestra, marching band, and the answer to that is yes. They can still participate in that live with their peers if that's what they need. Let's see. Okay, I will continue to go through as you go through the instruction and see if there are others.
Okay, so instruction, how much of the interactions are live and how many will not be live? At the secondary, that live interaction will depend on the total number of students. There will definitely be live interactions with at least one adult daily. At the elementary level, again, there will be live interaction daily for K-2. And if enough enroll, it would expand to grade 3 and beyond. Grades 3 to 5, there will at least be one live lesson daily. Will teachers adhere to stated timelines and curriculum, not like the spring pandemic learning? Yes, we plan to have lessons and assignments on a daily basis, and grades will be based upon student work. Will physical materials be provided? We will provide materials to accomplish the course objectives as necessary. What will labs look like? Each science course will be different when possible, and we will be providing opportunities for students to experiment at home with user-friendly resources. What is the plan for the student-teacher ratio? In K-2, we expect the ratio to be about 1 teacher for every 25 students. For grades 3 to 12, the student-teacher ratio will depend upon the number of students taking any particular course. What is the nature and frequency of teacher interaction with students? All will get a check-in with an adult daily, and contact with the teacher will be a combination of individual, small, and whole group. Interactions will all be virtual. What is the teacher preparation for Haverford Online? Well, there's been training and teaching and learning in the virtual environment. There's been Canvas training. There's been course design rubrics provided. There's been teachers working all summer as teams, developing and writing their curriculum to put into Canvas. There will be Pearson training for teachers that are selected to support the Pearson product. There will be support for instructional tech mentors. We've already created a large group of tech mentors who have become the masters in technology. And there will be ongoing professional learning communities for all teachers related to ongoing instruction. As students are older, they have more flexibility when they complete the work with Haverford Online. Are they required to check in daily? Could a student log in just 2 or 3 days a week to complete all assignments? At the higher levels, students will have the option to work faster on some days and slower on other days. There may be days specifically in which teachers want a specific check-in, and the students may be expected to check in at that time. Also, at the higher levels, we are constantly monitoring the success of those students, and if students are being successful, they're left to work independently, and if they're less successful, then that's when we reach out to them and insist more presence. What if I'm interested in homeschooling? Homeschooling is absolutely an option. Families are welcome to consider that. All information regarding homeschooling is also on our website, and once this FAQ is posted, you can find it here. You can also go to the school district website under curriculum and look at the section called homeschooling. Jen, I think I've gone through a bunch and maybe
Yep.
we'll take a break.
Yep, but I'll just check in here just to add to it. So, you know, the teachers will continue to be evaluated in their performance and their delivery of instruction, just as they would if they were in person. We will have administrators dedicated to working with the teachers, as well as our curriculum coordinators. Jeff is one of them, and our other humanities curriculum coordinator, who will be working with the teachers throughout to ensure that they are comfortable delivering the curriculum and they're effectively delivering the curriculum as well. We have a few comments and clarifying questions here. I want to acknowledge that this point has been made both in the emails as well as in the chat here. There is an assertion from some families that third graders would have a challenge functioning in the self-paced environment or without sort of the same kind of regular schedule that we're proposing for K through 2. And there is a request to extend what we are saying for K through 2 all the way through K through 5, if possible. So I don't want to ignore that request has been made. I recognize it, I understand it, and I want you to know, if we have the resources to do that, that would be, of course, a preference for us to be able to do that. So I didn't want to let that go by without remarking that. One question, will we still use PowerSchool for high school and middle school? Dr. Nesbitt, we will, right?
Yep.
Yep, okay, want to make sure I wasn't misspeaking there.
The difference is Canvas is the learning management system. That's what will deliver the curriculum to students. PowerSchool is our grade management system. So students and parents will still be able to see what assignments have been submitted, what assignments are incomplete, and what grades are on those assignments.
And you can see that through PowerSchool. And there's also parent access to Canvas, so you can get a little bit more detail on what those assignments are in our courses that are in Canvas. So here's a clarifying question. Just this person used as an example, if we sign up for Haverford Online in the beginning, the teacher would only be from Chestnut-Wald, let's say, if there were 25 other Chestnut-Wald students who joined. But if we went with hybrid, would it be necessarily, but if we went with hybrid, right, not Haverford Online, it would be a Chestnut-Wald teacher for the in-person and whatever's happening at home. And if the school closed and we went fully online, that would also be a Chestnut-Wald teacher. So yes, that's correct, okay? There is a possibility that if you went with the Haverford Online, that the teacher would be a district teacher that may not be one that's familiar to you from your school. It would be someone who's been in the district. But in the hybrid, if you are associated with an in-person teacher, it would be the teacher from that school. And in the online, fully online, because our school buildings have been closed, it will be teachers from your school. And we did talk about the course selection guide, but there was a clarifying question. So, sort of where do we get our courses to select from?
Yep. So when we post the course selection guide and the registration process for high school students who are selecting 100% Haverford Online will need to reselect courses. The majority of the Haverford High School courses are available as a Pearson course, but we are hoping that they are delivered using Canvas. So course descriptions are written there so that you can see what it would look like if you have a Pearson course. But if you select Honors Algebra 2, our goal is that it is delivered using the Canvas course.
Great. Also, will the elementary students have a schedule to follow, or can parents schedule their day in a way that works for their family and takes work and other obligations into account?
So as long as parents were okay with recorded sessions at the K-2 level, they absolutely could work independently as they wanted to. If they really want live instruction, then they would need to be present when those live instruction opportunities are scheduled.
Yeah. Also, just some requests for some open air meeting of teachers, if possible. It's a great suggestion. So once we have teachers identified, we will find some way to introduce them to everyone, make them, at least a video, if not an actual introduction, depending on what can work for families and for teachers. So I did want to mention that. Also, there's someone's asking for some clarification. I see lots of talk of live interaction, but not live teaching. What's the difference, and how can that be live learning and not just socially based interactions?
So our goal is to have as much live instruction as possible. But depending upon if only 3 students pick a course, and that course is offered at the high school, it will be difficult to have live interactions with 3 students on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we sort of may need to, as all of us, reframe necessarily what we think of as live teaching. A lot of teaching happens even in the regular school day, like 2 years ago, forget COVID. A lot of teaching and learning happens in small groups and in individual interactions. There is, you know, in the old school way of doing things, there was a lecture first and then kids did something, right? In the way that schools operate now, there's a lot of opportunity to discover, opportunity to work with a peer and figure something out together, and then sort of check in with the whole class, whose way of doing it worked, why did this work? So I just, as our definition of teaching or instruction is formed in our head, I think it is important just to recognize that a lot of that teaching and learning happens in a non-lecture kind of moment. In fact, when you look at the, you know, what's out there about strong online and virtual instruction, it's actually using the time of live interaction for assessing what the child understands and helping move the child forward, and using the recordings for the initial, here's some information, or do this reading. And so I just wanted to point that out as a pedagogical piece of teaching and learning in a virtual environment.
I see a question, can it be one teacher for 100 students at the high school? And the answer is absolutely not. We have always maintained, even when we had Haverford Online in the past, a teacher might manage 25 to 30 students, but our goal is certainly less than 25 students in the same course. So we won't have ratios of 1 teacher for 100 students.
Right. So people are asking, a couple of people are asking if Canvas is the model or the learning management system no matter what. And I know it is. We were working with Pearson to see how well it could integrate with Pearson as well, right, Dr. Nesbitt?
Yeah, so if students are in Haverford Online courses delivered through our Canvas platform, they will be in Canvas. If they are enrolled in a Pearson course, they would be in the Pearson platform. It's slightly different.
Another question, if at the middle school level a student misses a live interaction, can they watch later and complete their work, or will there be a negative consequence of missing a live class? No, we are trying to work in flexibility. We would like to record it. If the teacher is noticing that the child is not completing the work or not demonstrating understanding, that's when, just like in a regular classroom, they would be reaching out to the family and seeing, you know, what needs to be done to ensure the student can access the learning. Oh, and I appreciate this next question. When do teachers get back from vacation, and do they need to accomplish all of this in like 2 days? So the good news about our teachers is that despite the fact that they are technically on their summer vacation, they have been working since before the school year concluded, preparing to put their lessons in Canvas, preparing to learn how to teach in this challenge or this new environment, and really working together. They're already creating master courses. They are already working on converting curriculum. So yes, they do officially return from vacation the last week in August, but they are working all through their vacation to ensure that we're ready for whatever form school takes to start the school year. Attendance, how will attendance be monitored through Canvas? We have a way that we will be monitoring not only attendance. The nice thing about Canvas is it also can tell us a lot about how much time kids spend interacting with the materials that are posted there. Oh, supplies and equipment be distributed. And I think we may have mentioned it, but it might have been quick. We are looking that, you know, if there is a physical material that is needed, if there's a workbook that kids are using, if there's something there, we would have safe, you know, no contact pickups available. If something had to be mailed, we could mail something. We would really work with students to make sure they have what they need at home to access the learning.
There are several questions here that we're at now about IEPs and GIPs, which is kind of bringing us back to our steps 9 and 10 on the presentation.
Yep. So I think we said 9 and 10, but I'm going to say them again in case we didn't. The technology, what technology will be provided for students? The district is providing students in K through 2 with Chrome OS tablets, and we are providing students in grades 3 through 12 with Chromebooks. So that's all students, whether you're part of this program or not, are getting those devices. And then all students will be using Canvas as their learning management system, which is nice because it houses everything in one location. Assignments get turned in there, communication happens through there, calendars are there, and we're not sort of going back and forth to the many different platforms that may have been used in the initial stages of our pandemic learning. And then number 10 is, will Haverford Online support students with IEPs or support students who have GIEPs? And the answer is yes, all IEPs and GIEPs will need to be adhered to for students who are enrolled in Haverford Online. So that is part of the program. Some of it may need to be worked out with your child's case manager. We have Pupil Services coordinators for any concerns. This is, a program that has always worked with students who had IEPs and will continue to do so. And then there's a social emotional needs, which I don't think is necessarily only a part of IEPs, but I think is also about service delivery. So some students may have speech and language needs, other service delivery needs, and those again will be available to students who are participating in Haverford Online.
A couple additional questions. Do you expect teachers to be able to individualize the virtual learning like they do in a live classroom? And yes, the answer to that is absolutely. We expect that teachers who are delivering their online classes are able to differentiate for all the needs of all their learners. For AP classes, do teachers recommend either the hybrid or the Haverford Online format over the other? We've found over the years that we've had very successful students take Haverford Online classes and do very, very well in math, science, and social studies classes. And we've also found students who much prefer the in-person environment. So that really is more of a personal choice than a recommendation.
One of the questions, will all instructors be Haverford district teachers, including for the Pearson? The answer to that is yes. That is an option. You may hear of other districts contracting with teachers they get through Pearson. That is not what we are doing. We are using Haverford teachers. And if necessary, the curriculum that is based in Pearson that we will then tailor to fit our needs.
A technology question, will Google Drive still be used or does Canvas replace that? Actually, Canvas integrates with Google Drive. So students will still have their Gmail and their Drive accounts, and Canvas layers on top of that. For high school students, would they have live interactions with teacher in each subject weekly? Yes, that is what we aim to make sure, is that every week the teacher interacts with their students.
For middle school, will classes ever be live? Yes. That's what we're talking about. We'd like students to be able to experience live classes throughout the week. They will likely not have every class live every day, but they will have live class every day. And someone's asking, will kids see their teacher and each other during live lessons? Yes. So there will be, a community, and there will be dedicated effort to building community.
If I go to Haverford Online and we go back to red, will I still be in Haverford Online, or would it be switched back to virtual? We would keep you still in the Haverford Online schooling.
Oh, someone's asking about the survey closing on July 27th. And I apologize if it's not updated on the website. We have changed the survey due date to August 1st for you to indicate your intention for the school year. Again, that is not binding. That's just to give us an idea of allocation of resources. And then there will be a separate registration process following that, where you're actually saying, okay, now I'm signing up my child for this.
There's a question, how do we know when we're registering for Haverford Online whether a high school course will be Pearson or not? Unfortunately, we won't know that until we get the total enrollments for each course. So if 25 to 30 students are all selecting Algebra 1 Honors, we will be able to deliver that using a Canvas course and our own teachers. If, however, only 5 students select a course, it's going to be hard to justify a full teacher in Canvas for that, and we will provide a Pearson product, and the teacher will still be a Haverford Township School District teacher who will still interact with the students and provide plenty of live interactions with them, and can provide live instruction with them throughout the week.
Would we expect Haverford Online curriculum to require full-time parent or guardian interaction for a second grader, or will live interaction instruction be expected to replace that need? So as we showed in the sample schedule, there will be live instruction for every class throughout the day. Everybody knows their individual second grader best. I doubt that there would be a situation where you could only sit the child down and have them, navigate for the whole day without some checking in and monitoring and supporting them when they need breaks, et cetera. But it is for second grade, we're talking about live teaching for every subject every day according to a schedule.
If we got more than 25 students from an elementary school, but not 50, would the extra students end up mixed in? So if you had 30, 25 might get a teacher from their elementary school and the other 5 would end up from other schools. You want to answer that, Jen?
I'm sorry, I was reading
Okay,
the questions.
So essentially, the preliminary numbers do not indicate that we're going to have 30 students from a first grade from a particular building. We won't know that until we get total enrollment numbers, but it is likely that students who are selecting this option from Chestnut Walden in first grade may be mixed in with students from Coopertown in first grade. And we can't necessarily guarantee where the teacher is from that gets released to actually teach these students.
Can children complete their work on paper if their family's able to print, or can it just be done on the screen? Absolutely. Your teacher's going to work with you on what works best. We have, students who do better in one form or the other for whatever reason. So your teacher will work with you on that. Let's see. Do children in first grade have any specials courses, or will they be missing out? Yes, there is specials courses are scheduled weekly in the first and second grade schedule. So that includes art, music, and physical education.
Question, we'll be using Google Classroom. We will not be using Google Classroom. Canvas will take over for the classroom entirely.
How about if our high school student enrolls in Pearson AP classes and we end up going fully remote, do they have the chance to change their course registration and you sort of go into the Haverford Online, go into the regular Haverford AP class? And while, we are encouraging folks to make a commitment for a trimester at a time, if necessary, then there will be the ability to transfer back into the regular interactions in schools as opposed to Haverford Online.
So the question is, will technology be provided if we select the hybrid model? Yes, K-2 students this year in the school district of Haverford Township will be receiving Chrome OS tablets, and grades 3 through 12 will be receiving Chromebooks. That is whether you are in the hybrid format or in the online format.
Couple of questions about 504s, 504 agreements. Again, something that are maintained no matter which program you're in Haverford schools. So you'd still work with your counselor to work out the 504 and how that needs to be addressed in the Haverford Online environment. Someone asked, are we abandoning Google accounts and Google Docs, et cetera? No, we are not. Your students will still sign into things using their Google accounts. In fact, some of the assignments will still be using a Google Doc or making a Google slide. So we absolutely integrate and use the Google Suite as part of Canvas. So we absolutely will still use that. So and explain more examples about what a day would look like for middle schoolers if enrollment is low and there is not a dedicated teacher. So some of what we described at our board meeting really this is the opportunity for a child and a family to work on a schedule that makes sense. So a student may work on a particular subject first thing in the morning, have time for a break, have time to, have lunch, then do their specials work or something like that, their unified arts work. Then in the afternoon, maybe they really that's when they have their energy. They work on 3 classes in a row. And then later in that day, they have already have a small group invitation that they're going to meet with a teacher and several other students that day, knowing that the next day they're going to meet with the whole class. So it really is a more self-paced environment when we're looking at sort of a low enrollment at middle school, but it does still include check-ins with the teacher as well as live meetings with the teacher and other students. And those meetings will include teaching and learning as well as the social interaction. A question for IEP information: who can I speak with to gain additional information? Our Pupil Services staff is here over the summer, so if you have, you can just go to the website to see like the email addresses and the phone numbers for folks who are assigned to elementary and then middle and high school. They'll be able to help you to see how your needs might be able to be met in this environment.
What's the last date to register for Haverford Online?
We were asking for folks to try and have a decision and a registration complete by August 7th. We recognize that that is not necessarily, you know, that's going to be a challenge, but we would really like to be able to schedule some of these classes and really understand how we can reallocate our resources. So we're hoping that everyone can have it in by August 7th.
We are also going to be using Zoom as our primary platform for instruction. Someone asked that versus Google Meet.
Yeah. Someone's asked, or maybe 2 or 3 people have asked, in your elementary education dedicated teacher example, where 5 kids from each school select Haverford Online, where's that dedicated online teacher coming from? And that is, you know, always a good question. You know, we always have to look every year at how our teachers are allocated, what number of sections are required in each school, and how we maintain our recommended levels of sections. So it could be that there was going to be a year where one school had a large 5th grade class last year, and now they don't have that class. They went to the 6th grade, so they don't need as many sections of 5th grade. Where's that teacher going to go, or that position going to go? That person might be available to teach Haverford Online. So this is sort of where we need to know how many people we're talking through so that we can have a reallocation.
Question on how will grading work for the elementary and middle school? Is it pass-fail like the spring? No, grading will resume to the building policies on grading. So elementary students will be graded as they typically are, middle school students graded as they typically are, and high school students graded as they typically are.
And a related question, will assignment due dates be flexible in the same way that they were in the spring? No, this will be more like a traditional class. I mean, listen, there's always flexibility if a child speaks with a teacher and says, I need some extra time, but we will not have the everything is due on one date. It's much more like a typical, you know, this assignment is due at this time, or you have to do this assignment before you can get to that assignment kind of thing.
What are the number of students who have selected Haverford Online? What were the enrollment numbers like at the end of last year? How many students were fully online and have graduated? So in the past, the number of students who have been in Haverford Online has started about 12 years ago with around 10 to 15 students. This last school year, we were up to almost about 90 students in grades 6 through 12. We anticipate right now that that will significantly increase. Original survey data had indicated approximately 500 students in the entire district, with a little bit of a higher concentrations in the K1-2 and less at the higher grades.
We have a few questions about technology and how the kids will get to know the technology. This is actually something that all students will be doing, but of course with our Haverford Online students, we've always had this. We will have an orientation to the materials. There's a little bit of like getting to know, and the first assignment is try turning something in using this button, and then try attaching a document, and try to sort of like see if you can log in here. And that's the whole point of it, you know, and we walk you through it. So we recognize that orienting to the technology, not only to the devices themselves, but to each piece of web tools or that kind of thing is part of the teaching and learning. So yes, and that's for parents too. So, you know, you're not alone. We will have that no matter what. We're going to have some parent orientation to the devices and the web tools.
Will assignment due dates be more specific than they were in Google Classroom? Absolutely. Now that we are a one-to-one school district and every child will have a device, our assignments will have very specific timeframes, and they will be collected at those times.
If a family chooses to homeschool, can they do Haverford Online for just a particular subject like math or specials? And the answer is yes. That is always available. Also, so there was a question earlier about our materials available through homeschool. So we can provide you with access to, you know, whatever we have here. So for example, in English language arts, they have a little text for close reading workbook. If you, you know, if you decide to homeschool, we can give you a copy of the text for close reading workbook. We will certainly let you know all of the resources. Many of the resources that we use would be free for parents to sign up outside of the school district, and they can do that as well. So that's for if you're homeschooling, what that question was about. A couple of questions about switching back and forth, whether it's for AP or kindergarten. So again, we would love if people could make a commitment for a trimester, which is the first 60 days, or for a semester, which is the first 90 days of school. We recognize that it's all very uncertain, and there may be a need to change either from whatever the in-person option is to Haverford Online or vice versa. And we will do our best, as we always do when students have to switch classes or come new to a school, to orient students to their new environment and integrate them into the program that is new to them.
How much parent oversight is needed? Is it recommended that a parent need to sit with the first grade child? So at very early levels, we do refer to parents as learning coaches. And that means you may need to sit with the child to get them started while the live lesson begins. And then if there are assignments in which they need to complete, you may need to help them find the assignment and or submit the assignment. But most of that work should be able to be done independently.
On a high school level, will attendance be required by a certain time each day? We are required by the state to take attendance, and we will need to do that no matter what program you're in, and we will need to do that by a certain time of the day, every day. There's also a question about, will there be homework at the elementary level? Yes, yeah, there will still be homework. I like to call it extra practice, whether it's happening at home, whether it's because, a child needs some reinforcement. There will be certainly projects that they continue working on, work that they may do outside of that actual school day. But just as with in-person, second grade homework should not be more than 20 minutes, and it really should be read and practice the things that you learned today. So there's not a heavy emphasis on homework. Now, listen, if you're taking an AP course, anyone who's taken an AP course, there's lots of independent work that needs to happen, whether you're doing that in person or online.
How similar will online classes be if we wanted to work together with another family to form a pod? The kids are in different groups. Will their coursework be very different? Not at all. If the kids are both in second grade or both in fourth grade, the classwork that's expected of them would be the same similar classwork.
Is the calendar for Haverford Online the same as the district calendar? Yes, it is. So the same sort of holidays that would be there, the same winter break, all of those things are the same. Who do we contact to register for Haverford Online? We're going to post that on our website. And then just as a courtesy to those who said that they think they might be interested from the survey, we will also just send the registration link out to them. But it doesn't mean that you can't register if you hadn't indicated on the survey or anything like that. We'll have it in both places.
Someone's asking if the child can repeat kindergarten.
So we would certainly ask that you see how the year goes and then have that conversation with your child's principal, with your child's counselor, other important adults in your child's life. We typically encourage students to stay with their peers, but we recognize that everyone is different, and that's a decision that would need to be made on an individual basis, with all of those experts in the room helping you make that decision.
Will there be dedicated staff for Haverford Online as opposed to pulling them from the building? At the elementary level, absolutely. The staff will be dedicated and only doing the online learning portion of it. At the middle school and high school, they may be released from one period of instruction in order to provide a virtual period of instruction.
There have been known issues with Zoom audio video performance on the district issued Chromebooks. Will this be addressed prior to the start of Haverford Online? Yes, we are continually working on resolving any issues. One of the reasons we chose Zoom is because it is more reliable in its performance than Google Meet has been. Google Meet, I'm sure, will continue to upgrade as well, but that's why we've chosen Zoom. They're also very good to work with, so we will continue. Any issues that are identified, we'll continue to address those.
I guess we've been using the in-person direction a little bit confusingly. Someone is confused. The website said first grade students would run on a hybrid model. And now are we saying they should choose between online versus in-person? Actually, the in-person is the hybrid model at this time. So the most recent update on the school district website is proposing that in-person learning is a hybrid model. And if you wanted online learning, it would be 100% online learning.
People are asking about AMPM Kindergarten assignments. How will they be made? How will they be assigned for online learning? And that's one of those questions we don't have the answer to yet, but if there's any way for us to honor what you selected previously, then we will certainly do that. If there are enough students to make that happen, we'll do our best to make sure that we can align with what you need there. A couple of questions. Will parents have the opportunity to speak live? Virtually is fine in a two-way fashion, so our questions can be direct and in our own words. Yeah, what we're going to work on is sort of after the end of this, see what kinds of questions remain, and then see if there's another way that we need to set up some communication, whether it's simply phone calls or giving out, phone number, having a period of time dedicated to calling in, leaving messages, that kind of thing. We'll think of, think through, are there other ways to get questions answered if we haven't been able to do so in this fashion. Another question, when the school board votes on the school plan, what exactly will they be voting on? They will be voting on what the in-person model is. So they'll be voting on the health and safety plan, and that vote is scheduled for July 30th. Oh, will Haverford Online have snow days? Nope. No, they won't. And the truth is, we're pretty well prepared. I don't know if anybody's going to have a snow day anymore, but no, Haverford Online will not need snow days, although, the schedule will be flexible enough that if you want to go out and enjoy that snow a little bit, there will be an opportunity to do so, certainly. Question about how does medical careers fit in with the Haverford Online schedule? That's a great question. We want students to continue to be involved in our tech ed program. So certainly that's something offered at the high school level. So it's certainly something we could work around in scheduling that student's day and seeing when the live interaction could happen with peers for the other classes after the medical careers internship were concluded for the day. For high school, how many hours can we expect in each block each day? So what you're doing in high school is typically an 80-minute block. So you can expect about an 80-minute block. Now, sometimes that'll be a little less, sometimes it'll be a little bit more, depending on the pace that the child is going and whatever particular project is. But for each subject that is taken, it's the equivalent of an 80-minute block.
Is there an ability for several students to be enrolled in the same Haverford Online class? Absolutely. All the Haverford Online classes could enroll up to 25 to 30 students, just like a traditional setting.
If there are two elementary students in the same class sharing physical study space, will they be able to attend on one computer? Certainly. If that's your preference, sure. Do teachers have tools available to them to help kids stay engaged in the live sessions? Yes. And are there classroom rules or online tools? Yes, to keep kids from being disruptive. Absolutely. This is some of what the learning is that's occurring over the summer for our teachers, just learning how to keep kids engaged, how to handle it when they're not. So that's absolutely something we're working with them and they're working on for the school year, no matter whether they're doing Haverford Online or our in-person option.
Will Haverford Online allow for sick days? Absolutely. If your child is unable to do the work for the day, you can write an email to the teacher and let them know that they're sick. The advantage will be the session can be recorded, and whenever they're feeling better, they can get caught back up relatively easily.
Will guided reading be offered in either model? Yes, it will be, and the frequency of guided reading will just depend on what the teachers are able to schedule throughout the day. But absolutely, guided reading is a tenet of our program for literacy, and it will remain a large part of what we do. Will we be given guidance on which classes are the required classes that our child should register for in Haverford Online? That's a great question. Jeff, do you want to talk to that one? Any guidance on which classes are the required classes for children to register for Haverford Online?
Yeah, so for K-2, 3-5, and 6-8, the majority of the classes are required, and in 6-8, you would select the level of the class that your child is eligible in cases where we actually have the levels available. And then in grades 9-12, there will be a course selection guide very much like the high school, where you'll be expected to select 6.5 to 8 credits. And again, all the core courses will match the core courses that we offer at the high school. So if your student was going to take Algebra 1 and Geometry, they could still take Algebra 1 and Geometry. For the most part, you'll be able to mirror the schedule that you had originally selected, where some of the electives will not be as available.
And that's related to the question, will feedback from my child's previous instructors be a factor into class placements? Will new teachers receive information about my child from previous instructors? Yes, we will be using whatever the information would have been to place them in the in-person to make decisions about what would be available for the Haverford Online for that child. And then, the work that's completed during Haverford Online, the assessments that are given, the report cards that come out would all be a part of the child's, record that would typically go on for teachers as they go out throughout their career here.
Some confusion between all the different nomenclatures and choices. There really are two. One, you can go to school. It is called in-person learning, and it is now our hybrid model. Where instruction will be delivered on Monday and Wednesday or Tuesday and Thursday, as was recently posted on the website. The other option is Haverford Online. If you select Haverford Online, you will not step into the building at all, and all the instruction will be delivered virtually.
Can you take more courses online for a high school student than in person and allow a child to advance or to challenge the child more? We do have a number of credits that are allowable per year, but what is available is to be able to double up on subjects. So if you wanted to take 2 maths in a year, you would be able to do that in Haverford Online, or you'd be able to do that in person.
What will be the availability of guidance counselors for children who are participating in Haverford Online? That's one of the benefits for participation in Haverford Online, is that you would have access to your traditional building principal, your guidance counselors, as well as social workers and other supportive services that we generally provide.
My 9th grader selected gym. What happens for gym with Haverford Online, or will he need to select a different class? There is going to be an online physical education as well as an online health class available for students who choose it. How would you attend clubs or bands at school if you're registered for Haverford Online? That's absolutely something that can be scheduled within your day. And, once you'll see the schedules for those come out from the high school or the middle school, it's something that would be available for you to attend.
How will state testing be handled, particularly at the 3rd grade level? So at this point in time, the state has said, I believe that they will deliver state assessments virtually, if necessary. Is that the most recent update, Jen?
Yes, that is the most recent update.
So in the past, we would have students come into the building in a very small group setting to take them. But I believe that students would be able to take the 3rd grade PSSA through the virtual setting.
Yes, we are getting some questions just about IEPs, and I would just like to let you know that if you did submit a specific question regarding how your child's individualized education plan would be delivered to the Haverford Online account, we will be happy to, and we will forward that on to the appropriate coordinator so they can take a look, the Pupil Services coordinator, so they can take a look at your specific question.
Question of, for the high school, will Haverford Online be scheduled within the full typical school day compared to the hybrid proposal that would end at noon? One of the most interesting things about monitoring student learning online is that it really is very variable. So students that take various courses whether it's at the AP level or at the academic level, when we look at students' need for mastery of various topics, we're saying students will need to take about 90 minutes a day on these courses, but some students will find that it takes them less time than 90 minutes to work through these courses. And some may be challenged to accomplish all that needs to be accomplished within those 90 minutes. So our general framework is that students would be selecting 4 classes like they would at the high school, and it would be block scheduled, but some students may be able to work through that relatively quickly.
Just a couple of questions about exactly what the board will be voting on the 30th. And they're really voting on the health and safety plan that is required by all school districts in the state of Pennsylvania to be approved before we can open schools for any in-person learning at all. Initially, we had a 3-foot requirement to keep students at 3 feet away from each other, and we were able to have a couple of different models to consider. At this point, that is not the guidance that we have from the state of Pennsylvania, and so that's why the hybrid model is being considered by the school board, but it's the actual health and safety plan that they're voting on, just to clarify that. We have a question: how do teachers break out kids in the same online class based on their particular stage for reading comprehension? We do have a plan for assessing reading comprehension. And then if you're familiar with Zoom meetings, we do have the ability to have small groups of students who could work together. The teacher can go in and work with that small group while other students are completing another task. So it would be basically running a virtual center time that we, just like we do in our regular in-person classes. Also, there was a question about reading specialists. If my child gets seen for reading support, would they still have access to reading support? And the answer is yes.
Will Haverford High School have dates for juniors to take the SAT? Absolutely.
And just to clarify, I know a few people are asking about the high school ending early at the 12:30. It really, their instruction actually is continuing for the whole part of the day. It's just a matter of where it's occurring. So although this is off topic a little bit, I know it's helping you make some decisions. So students will be, who are in person at the high school, would be attending school at the high school until that dismissal time. And then they are still expected to be engaging in learning just from their home setting as opposed to in their in-person setting at that point. So just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Someone is asking, trying to determine which option will provide the most consistent curriculum schedule. I may be thinking wrong that in-person is 2 days a week with an option online day, and online option will be something that students do 5 days a week. So the hybrid schedule, you will be face-to-face with your teacher 2 days a week, and the other days of the week you will be working independently with some asynchronous instruction and perhaps some live instruction depending on what is available. With online learning, again, depending on the age and grade and courses that you select, everything will be fully online.
Someone's asking if this is being recorded. Yes, this is being recorded and will be posted on the website as well. For elementary school, what time will the students arrive or come home from school in the hybrid scenario when they're physically at school? I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that. I think it's staying the same. Dr. Rushi, I don't know if you're, yeah.
Yes, I am. The days that they are in school are the regular schedule. So 3:30 would be the end of their day.
Great. How will reading assessments or leveling take place in the hybrid or online? We do have an in-person model called, we use AIMSweb. It's a way to assess students' understanding of phonics, phonemic awareness, letter sound fluency, oral reading fluency, and comprehension. Those can be administered both in person as well as online. We also have some other assessments called the Fontes and Pinnell assessments, which help us determine students' levels of comprehension. And we do have a way for those to be administered in person as well as to learn some information from students as they read those passages online. So we do have a plan in place to assess reading levels so that we can have that differentiated instruction.
traveling questions. Will there be a college road trip for seniors for Haverford Online and in-person school? I think the answer to that will be very dependent upon what the state government's guidance is at whatever time that would to occur. If it were, if students who are taking in-person school are going on a college road trip, Haverford Online students would have the opportunity to join them. Is the room at Oakmont building available for kids to come and work or meet with a teacher? Again, depending upon the social distancing guidelines and the recommendations for what is necessary, it may be available throughout the year for various either appointment drop-ins or otherwise scheduled drop-ins.
What is the timing? Oh, sorry, so many more questions came in all at once there. What is the timing for online school or Haverford Online for elementary students? Regular, same school day timing as our regular in-person schools. Will there be, let's see, textbooks and workbooks provided for students so that not everything is done on a screen? Yes, you know, if that's something that we're providing in person, that's something we'll provide for our Haverford Online students. Someone is asking, but will online have some sort of instruction, maybe recorded for older kids 5 days a week? Yes. Yes.
The question about cohorts for the hybrid option, how will cohorts be decided? Would they be divided alphabetically or geographically? At the elementary level, we would definitely strive to divide them geographically.
What sort of data privacy or COPA protocol do you have in place? Our technology department does have a process for determining that websites, web tools, all sorts of things are safe enough for us to interact with. It's part of the contracts that we have with our providers, and it's something that we don't use something if it's not on our approved COPA list.
Ms. Sachs,
Yes.
just for a minute, I just want to, you know, sometimes the terminology is making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And the question there that was just asked about the hybrid model and how the cohort will be formed. We're looking at a number of different ways that the cohorts could possibly be formed. However, we are leaning towards forming them alphabetically at the elementary level with the goal of keeping families together. I'm not sure. I don't think the question there was about Haverford Online, Dr. Nesbitt. It may have been, but I don't think it was about how the Haverford Online cohorts would be formed. I'm concerned that people may think that is the hybrid if you're in school 2 days.
All right, I understand. Makes sense.
And we are getting a number of questions in the chat about the hybrid model. And we do not have all of the information to present at this time about the hybrid model. It is something that is going to be discussed on Thursdays at Thursday's board meeting. But what we can talk about is, you know, any other questions that come in specifically about Haverford Online. I recognize that you need the information about both. It's just that we don't have necessarily the information at our fingertips about the actual hybrid model for this particular meeting. That is coming on Thursday.
Question as to whether we would use
Meetings next week. We're
Oh, I'm
looking
sorry.
at possible live meetings next week that would be dedicated to the hybrid model.
Great.
Question as to whether we'll be using Clever software for online logins. Yes, we have recently adopted Clever, and for every web-based interface that works with that, we will be using Clever to log in.
Will the online students, are they going to have breaks from technology? Yes, they are. They will not only be built in, you know, scheduled breaks during the day, but also all assignments will not require the use of technology. We believe that students still need to interact with other materials other than this screen in order to do their learning.
If we choose Haverford Online, will the student be able to return to the physical school when safe? Absolutely.
Will my middle schooler with a GIEP still be a part of their seminar class in an online system? Yes, we're working with our seminar teachers. We know that we will meet the GIEP needs, but I also recognize that there is a desire to still have a cohort with maybe a group of students who they've known for a long period of time. So we're working out to see how we can make that possible, how we can have, you know, some experiences together that is definitely on the list of things that we're trying to figure out the best way to accomplish that. Yeah, well, we have tech support for Haverford Online if needed beyond the initial training. Yes. So in addition to everybody having sort of a help desk ticket system to use, the nice thing is we'll be able to tailor, any specific issues that are coming up for Haverford Online students. Absolutely. The tech support will be a part of what we can provide students and their families as they're trying to make their way through the program. What is the ratio of virtual teaching to pre-recorded teaching for elementary students, specifically third grade? So this one's a challenge, and I know that everybody would love, us included, would love to have, this is the percentage of time that this will occur. What we can say is that there will be live instruction daily for third grade students. What we can't say is that it's daily live instruction for every single class. So depending on the number of students that any particular teacher has in their sort of course load, and that depends on the number of students that enroll, then we can say that there would be a greater number of minutes spent in live instruction. What we know is that there will be live instruction daily, there will be live interaction daily. We just can't say that it will be for every subject all day long in third grade.
How will IEP meetings be held for students in Haverford Online? Now, all IEP meetings will be held virtually throughout the following school year at the present time, unless things change. It will be a recommendation that all IEP meetings are held virtually.
I did get a question or two about how second graders usually take an assessment to determine their eligibility for the gifted program. How will that be handled for online kids? I've just made a note of that to work with the Pupil Services department to ensure that those students still have the opportunity to take the screening in a way that would be still a valid implementation of that screening test.
Is it possible to join Haverford Online at any point of the year if your child can no longer do the in-person hybrid model? Like, while we prefer that occur at an actual grading period, it is absolutely possible at any point in time to say, this environment is not working and I'd like to return to or go to a different environment, whether that's from the hybrid learning to Haverford Online learning, or the opposite, to go from Haverford Online learning to the hybrid learning.
I'm just trying to go through and see if there are any questions that we missed or that we were not able to get to yet. Oh, let's see.
How many students can Haverford Online handle? Really, there is no limit to what they can handle. We don't anticipate that the initial sign up will be more than a certain percentage of the total population, but there are no absolute caps. We're not going to turn anybody down to Haverford Online from the very beginning. Everyone that signs up for it, whenever they sign up for it, will be able to be enrolled.
And just on a related note, what would the protocol be for making that change? Someone's asking, would you contact the principal? We can't, yes, that would be part of it. But what we can do is make sure that we post on our website sort of a process that you would follow in order to indicate your preference to make a change and how we would, what information we need and how that could occur.
What would the typical day for a first grader look like? Could it be posted on the website? It is actually. It was presented at the school board meeting last week, and you can go to the website now and see what the typical first grade schedule would look like.
We have had a few people ask about scope and sequence, and yes, certainly we're happy to provide, an overview of our courses and what the units are that we cover. You can find a lot of that information already on our website. If you go to the curriculum page on our website, we do have curriculum guides. And then at the high school level, you can see that same information in the course selection guide, which also lives on the high school website as well. Oh, this is I don't know if this is a repeat or a second question. Is there a way to see when you're registering how many other people have registered so you can get some sense of whether the class might run for that? I don't know technically how to make something like that happen, but I will certainly investigate that. I know it sounds like there's a desire that has been expressed to team up where possible as families and try and make it happen where a teacher can be dedicated to something. So I respect that that effort to do that, and let us think on how we might be able to technologically make something happen that would enable that level of communication. Will Haverford Online instructors also be teachers assigned to hybrid model classrooms? So would they have dual responsibilities? If that were the case, they would have a reduced teaching schedule. So if a typical teacher teaches 4 classes, someone who were assigned to have an online class might teach 3 in person and 1 online. Or if there are enough students enrolled, they may teach 0 in person and all online. Feedback will be given for the 3rd to 5th grade range. Yes. So there are a couple of ways that feedback will be given. Some of it, and I have to say, this is kind of the nice part about online. There's a lot of immediate feedback that comes through the activities. So even the things that are sort of automated have already had the teacher's touch. So when you're answering the question about the reading passage, if you don't select a right answer, there may be a prompt, a hint, look at this, and then come back and try that one again. There's a lot of automatic feedback that's possible. There's a lot of sort of gamified feedback that's available. And then you've got a teacher who's assigned to you, who's following whether or not you are completing the assignments, how you're completing the assignments, who's reading your essays, who's working with you, who's talking to you, and they will be providing feedback on your understanding. They'll be providing guidance, all of those things. That's why that teacher is assigned to you as you're engaged with that coursework.
Question, is there a flexibility for 2nd graders in the event that a parent has several work meetings and the child can't attend live for a day? Absolutely. All of the live instruction will be recorded, and the students will be able to go back at a different time and watch that. And or if it's just a single day, just like if they missed a day of regular school, they can check in with the teacher and find out what they missed and get themselves independently caught up.
My 6th grader's in the orchestra. How will she be able to participate if she enrolls? She will. That's we offered at a time that would make it available. We'll just make sure that there's a way to indicate something like that on your registration so that we can give your information over to the appropriate school and they can get that communication. Attendance will be taken through Canvas, and there will be, an assignment that students have to complete, or there'll be a way that we collect that they have completed assignments within Canvas so that we know that they're participating every day and by a certain time every day.
Or within the Pearson Learning Management System. Right. It also, both systems will monitor how much time the students actually spend within the courses as well.
Yeah. How are you selecting teachers has come up a couple of times. It's all very much dependent on what the need is here. As part of our matter of course, we will be seeing if there are teachers who identify teaching Haverford Online as a preference. And then we will do our best to match up whatever our needs are from students with our resources and teachers. Will there be support staff assisting Haverford Online classes? 25 elementary students is a lot under normal conditions, and it may seem extra challenging, especially if students have IEPs, 504s, etc. Yes, teachers will receive whatever level of support is required based on the students that are in their classes, in addition to having the support of their principal, as well as the Haverford Online administration, the curriculum coordinators, the Pupil Services coordinators, all of the folks that are typically there to support our teachers. Still confused on this point. I hear online kids can participate in band and chorus, but can they participate fully in line? Oh, online, or would they be required to participate in person? I apologize. Yes, I was speaking about them participating in person. There will be music classes offered through Haverford Online, but to participate in the band or the orchestra that run as a part of school, that would be an in-person choice at that point. And I have an appointment with our music department tomorrow, so I'll bring that up with them and see what other ideas they have for that.
Is attendance based upon work completion at all levels? It's going to be based both on work completion and login time. So if a student logs in and completes an assignment in 2 minutes, that may not count as attendance for the day. However, that's more likely at the middle and high school levels. For the most part, when students submit their work, that will be a requirement for attendance.
Will the Haverford Online schedule match the current schedule specifically related to early dismissal days, teacher and service days, etc.? Yes.
Will students be required to log in with their individual credentials in Canvas? Earlier, you said this would not be necessary. I'm sorry if it came across that way. Yes, all students will have individual logins to both their Canvas courses and to Pearson courses. We did say that PowerSchool will still be used as the grading part of our delivery of information to parents. But yes, students will need to log into either Canvas or Pearson for us to know that they've actually done their work.
And Jeff, I think when someone asked earlier if 2 students could use the same computer, I said they could. And in this instance, thank you for pointing that out, they would need to log in separately when they're turning in the assignments, log in initially separately so we know everybody's there, and then you may be able to use one computer, stick with one of those screens, one of those windows with your computer open as they're watching that. So I apologize, that was probably, referring to something I said there. Will Pearson High School courses follow a block or semester, one semester schedule or a year-long semester? We're going to do it all in one semester. We want to make sure that students have the ability to go back after the semester and they don't end up only being halfway through a course by the semester change.
And we want to make sure that students who would typically take 2 math classes, 2 science classes, 2 world language classes have that opportunity to do so. So the block scheduling will remain in place.
Will Haverford Online be flexible with timing due to working parents' schedules? Yes, I mean, that's one of the things we really think is an advantage for both for students and for families, is that it does afford a certain level of flexibility. Sorry, we're just reading through here. If at the high school level, attendance at the live session is optional, how will that affect the community collaborative feel in the online classes? I feel that the students should show up and make it an actual class and not just the teacher delivering a one-on-one casual conversation or a lecture with no one really there, or the other kids watching the teacher interacting with 1 or 2 kids. Yeah, so that's the piece when we talked about the flexibility. If you're invited to participate, there is an expectation that you'll participate. And if there's a reason that you can't, that's when you will be expected at the high school level to have a conversation with your teacher so that there is another opportunity where you are interacting. We 100% have heard the feedback from both our families as well as our teachers and our kids about making sort of optional office hours and how effective that's been. And we will need students to be present and part of a community and participating in all of those things as part of a community if they are in Haverford Online. Will this recording be made available after it's over? Yes, it will. We'll have it posted on the website. We'll also update our FAQ with some follow-up from what we've gotten from these questions and post that as well. Will students who enroll in Haverford Online be provided with school materials, supplies such as textbooks? Yes, anything that they need to complete the course, they absolutely will be provided with. Thank you, Anna. We have a 2-minute warning from that we did say that we would conclude it at 6:30. Again, we are going to take questions that we didn't get to in the chat, incorporate them into the FAQ, and look and see if there are other specific times that we need to set up or any specific people that need to have an avenue to have a 2-way conversation. We'll look into that.
Will Pearson classes appear on as a letter grade on their transcripts? Absolutely. It will appear as a class. It would still say Algebra 1 Honors, and the grade that they get in that course will be what they would get to show up on their transcript.
Are teachers putting appropriate energy into creating Haverford Online courses, but also the material for virtual days of the hybrid model? The nice thing about Haverford Online, the virtual model, any in-person model, all of the work that is being done for this can support all of those modes of instruction. So what is created for Haverford Online can be shared and used as part of virtual learning, can be shared and used even if we're all in person in the classroom. That's the beauty of using our curriculum and our teachers. We can really serve all of those forms. Are we going to publish? Oh, yes, the results from the survey. I can tell you right now, as we're hitting 6:30, as of a few minutes ago, we had, let me just not make two, let's see. We have 282 selected Haverford Online already out of a little over 2,000 total respondents. So just to give you a sense of where we are already, and yes, we will share those survey results just so folks know.
Lots of thank yous for our time.
Thank yous, okay, and a few questions, and again, we'll share what we can. Let's see. Great. Okay, so once again, we would just like to recognize the challenge of figuring out what the right decision is for your family. Thank you so much for spending the time doing this. You know, I'm a member of the community. I live here. My kids will go to Coopertown. It's one of the things I'm most proud of is the parent support and just how involved our parents are and how important they believe education is. And so we share that with you. And we all really want the best for you, for your safety, and of course for our children and their learning. So thank you as we're trying to develop the best program possible that can meet your needs. We thank you for your support and your patience and your contribution to this conversation.
Good night.
We'll post it on the website. Thank you, everybody.